Hello all, so as anyone who watched my last video of Are You Lost knows, the series has sadly come to an end, but it left me so many questions I just had to start reading the manga and see what the hell happens next. And quite a bit happens after we left off. Quite a bit we didn't see, quite a bit more info. I really enjoyed reading it, and it's still going on. And honestly, just based on what is currently out right now, there is definitely enough for a second season. I'm not sure if they will make a second season. I've seen no evidence for or against it, but I haven't seen a ton of popularity or people talking about it online, so maybe that's not the case, but just be warned in case you want to wait a few months and see if some second season gets announced before you watch this video. The anime is actually a pretty good interpretation of the manga. Oftentimes their poses, their expressions, their words are often exactly what they are in the manga, so that's nice. Though there's usually a little more information like, oh, this is really poisonous, or this is that, or blah blah blah. Just like some extra advice for it. The manga comes off more as a survival manual than the anime does. That's how I'll put it. And while I am planning on going mostly in order for everything that happens here, there is one really, really big storyline I just kind of have to talk about first. Remember when the girls go to the hot springs and they follow the smoke there? Yeah, it turns out the smoke they're following is not from the hot springs. It's from the other people on the island. Yes, there are other people on the island. Soji and Rui. Soji is a strong, athletic young man who respects women because his mother raised him after his father left him for some tramp. That makes sense. And it's a good thing he's partnered with a girl, Rui, who he hasn't yet realized is a girl. Yeah, we're doing one of those here. Essentially, the premise is she saved him from drowning, but then her clothes got so torn up that she needed to put on a boy's uniform, and then he just assumed she was a boy, and it became too awkward to mention it, even after they spend weeks together on the island, which I mean, I kind of get why these two weren't introduced. Their storyline kind of just ends pretty abruptly, no real conclusion to it. At least so far, so there's not much they can really put in the anime. I can definitely see this working in a second season. Plus, the whole anime's got 5 voice actors total, so another 2 would be a pretty big dent in the voice acting budget right there. And as you may have guessed, these 2 are not survival experts by any means whatsoever. They're lucky enough to find a mountain spring where they can get their water from, and thankfully one of the suitcases they find are full of snacks the person was bringing home as souvenirs, which somehow lets them go several weeks without having to find food of any kind by themselves, which that's just really amazing, honestly. Though it does just further prove that these 2 are not meant for survival in any way whatsoever. I mean, they don't even try to find other sources of food while their own food supply is slowly dwindling. They slept directly on the sand, which can draw out your body heat and greatly sap your strength. And Soji repeatedly attempts to eat food which he thinks are good but are actually incredibly poisonous. Yeah, so they should die. By all means, they should die. In fact, Rui gets so sick that she's basically unconscious. Thankfully, though, they are saved by Homere's papa, which that's essentially what happens after that cliffhanger from the anime. He gets to the island, but he's on the wrong side, and so he rescues Rui and Soji instead of his own daughter. Of course he does. Fun fact, Rui actually knows the other girls are on the island, but didn't say anything because she was afraid they'd all become Soji's harem. Like, they'd all look to him to protect them, and I don't understand her logic. Also, I really wish she had met Homare. That would have been fun. Like, after she had that horrible thought, then she's like, oh, no, Homare is the master of the island. We're all just her bitches. So anyway, being rescued by Homere's papa might not have been the best thing for them. Yes, they were dying. But he's apparently the unluckiest man in the world. Remember in the desert when he said, oh, thought we were in trouble when our guide stole our camels and ran away. That's apparently a common occurrence for him. Here we see him again in Libya when a civil war breaks out and they can't get to any of their stuff. And they essentially need to walk all the way to the Egyptian embassy. Homer's response to this? This always happens in our adventures, so yes, he is the least lucky man in the world. And where do you think this leads? It leads to his boat exploding because of a gas leak or something. So, yeah. Oh, also, Soji can't swim. Yes, he's been on a desert island for 2 weeks, and he never once thought, I should learn how to swim. Which leads to Homer's papa stealing Rui's pants, figuring out she's a girl, and using them to make a float. Though Soji still hasn't figured it out yet, so good on him. Anyway, they end up on another deserted island. Not the same one they've been on this whole time, another one. Anyway, then Rui's finally healthy enough where she can go back to Homer's papa and say, oh, yeah, your daughter actually was on that island, and he just laughs it off. I'm like, so she was smiling? Yeah, she looked happy. He's like, oh, that's great. So why are you dressed like a boy? Weird encounter, and this was back in chapter 40. I was like 20-something chapters ago, so kind of weird we haven't seen anything from them since, but I will keep you updated if that changes. Now let's get back to the girls you actually care about. First off, as it turns out, Homer's mother is in fact dead. I theorized that for a while. That's the reason why she's able to go on these crazy adventures, but at one point, her father commented on how her mother would be mad if they came home smelling this bad. Maybe he just meant like if she was still alive or something. Not sure. Anyway, from here, he quit his job as a soldier and essentially became a salaryman so that Homer would never be left alone again, which I gotta respect him for that. I mean, yes, he's taken his daughter on some crazy-ass survival situations, but, gave up the job he loved so that he'd always be there for his daughter, and I can respect that. We also learn why these 4 girls are here now. I thought it was always weird, that plane crash and these 4 separated. As it turns out, the back of the plane literally exploded, and these 4 just got sucked out, while the rest of them were still on the plane as it continued to fly for many, many miles. So it's a good possibility the rescue students have already been rescued. I mean, they were the plane with the GPS and all that. While our group is just, stranded. Assumed dead and forgotten. Homer even suggested they might be in, forbidden waters where you're not allowed to go, which is why Homer's father found the island instead of rescuers. Oh, remember when Asuka tried to eat that thing she thought was a taro, and she ended up getting a big rash on her butt? Yeah, it turns out it was a Kuwazumio. Kuwazimo. It was that, yes, and it is so poisonous that if she had eaten it, she would have become completely paralyzed and probably died. So, good on you, Homer, for stopping her there. And just further proof that these girls would definitely die without her. We also see Shion and Homer setting up a mirror so they can signal to any boats that pass by, even if they're tens of kilometers away. That's very impressive. I like that. I love this little warning we get after the chapter on traps. The traps depicted in this work is a violation of the Wildlife Protection Act. It can only be used in emergencies. Incidentally, the maximum penalty is 1 million yen. I mean, I get that. The traps definitely were cruel and heartless, and definitely not something I would ever use, even in a life or death situation, but it makes sense why, you're not allowed to, at all. Another little interesting tidbit. The reason that Mutsu and Asuka were the one to check the rabbit's trap when they had to kill the rabbit was because Shion was running scared from a snake, and Homer was trying to find it so they could eat it. Homer does end up catching a snake later on in the series, but accidentally burns it, so she can't eat it either. Oh, and this was a fun one. After they were bitten by a bunch of mosquitoes, Homer spit at them. Yeah, she started chewing up some leaves that were good medicine and literally spit it in Asuka's eye, then on Mutsu's stomach, and then finally on Shion, and it was somewhat terrifying, honestly. And again, the series does go out of its way to explain basic survival bits that are useful and helpful. Here we see how to make a 2-half hitches knot, which I'm sure is very useful in survival situations. Manga also keeps a much better track of how long they've been on the island, regularly updating us. It's been a month by the end of it. And here we see Mutsu make a little calendar showing that they've been here about 2 weeks now. Which just really upsets Atsuka because it turns out she missed the big tournament that she just has been training and working for so hard for so long now to be there for her team. And if her team did make a tournament, they probably did thinking she was dead. That's That's just grim. So, moment of vulnerability for her. I really like that. And then Mutsu decides to help her out by pretending to be a basketball hoop so she can make some shots. And yeah, I don't think she would have been very helpful during the basketball tournament. Her air aim's not that great. Oh, speaking of Mutsu, we find out what her passion is. Boy on boy love stories, or Shoda. She loves reading her Shoda. And apparently that's what she wants to do with her life. She wants to be a Shoda writer. Okay, why not? Mutsu Amatame, age 17, her future dream is become a boys' love light novelist. And when asked to give a hint about what her goal is in life, she explains it has givers and receivers, which, oh goddamn, you are a dirty little girl, aren't you? That was fun. Homer, on the other hand, is up for anything as long as it lets her travel the world, so they suggest a flight attendant, and she says that works. I don't want to imagine her as a flight attendant because I think that'd be absolutely freaking terrifying. She'd spit in your face to cure your bug bites or whatever. And this is where the boar hunt begins. Long before it happened in the anime, I mean, Shion still hasn't gotten lost yet. This is where it happens. It begins by Homer examining droppings that she believes are from a boar and Asuka believes are from her. They end up being from a boar, but still a very awkward situation. And apparently they all have their own little bathroom spots on the island where they go, so the others know not to go there and see their droppings, which is unpleasant to say the least. I mean, for a series so gung ho about explaining what's even a travel situation, they haven't really explained. But where do we go to the bathroom? I mean, I can guess some of it, but I'm sure I do it wrong, and I'm sure I'd accidentally, contaminate the river or something by my means. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Homer ends up building them an outhouse by the end of the series. Anyway, to prepare for the boar hunt, Homer makes a bow and arrow. And while it's a bit inaccurate, it's pretty cool. Though this endlessly depressed Mutsu because she just remembered the next game of the Monster Hunter series came out and she's really upset that she won't get a chance to play it. Though, as Asuka says, you'll be hunting for real! So yeah, that was a very depressing moment for Mutsu. I like this one. It was signs of a coming storm. Distant noises become clearer, smoke stops rising straight up, dark clouds, and the morning glow. And your hair gets frizzier, which terrifies Shion, but then as a means of staving off boredom and stopping them all from losing their goddamn minds, Homer decides to teach them all Morse code. I like having a little Morse code chart there. That's pretty cool. And Mutsu's a very fast learner because she's immediately having full-blown conversations with Homer in Morse code. Yeah, didn't see that coming. And it's just a really great moment between the two of them. Homer and Mutsu are definitely my favorite on the islands, and this is just absolutely hilarious. Anyway, then Shion gets lost. And it's kind of interesting looking at this, because the waves are a big deal when she's, lost. Like, she's almost getting knocked off over and over again. That was not in the anime at all. I almost feel like that was like a budget thing where they could show her, like, slowly, lazily drifting on a raft, but if they included waves, that would have been too expensive to draw and animate or something. Anyway, then we have the flashback where she's trying to measure the tree in Africa, and I was always kind of curious, why are you trying to measure this tree? Yeah, it turns out she was just curious. She's like, wonder how tall it is. And he's like, I'm going to give you a lesson on trigonometry, my 6-year-old daughter. Anyway, then she rescues Shion. It's a much less dramatic moment here. I mean, the anime felt pretty accurate to it, but the anime definitely felt more impactful here. Like, Shion was fully accepting her death and ready to die, where here it was just, she was a little lost and thirsty, and Homer managed to find her, which I get, this was like the big final challenge of the anime the first season. They had to, build it up a little bit. Personally, I think the boar hunt would have been better. That was definitely more of a team moment for all of them. So, now they're on the raft, and they have no water, and, yeah, then we have this scene. Yeah. Again, fairly accurate to what we saw in the anime. Thankfully, when they get back, though, Homer managed to build them up an electrolyte solution made of honey, water, salt, and a little bit of yuzu, which makes it more drinkable. and replenishes everything they lost when they were, dying of dehydration. Anyway, then Asuka gets drunk. Yeah, apparently she accidentally fermented the honey, and now she is just shit-faced. Oh, and also Homare is the lightest drinker in the entire world, where one sip and she's just suddenly feeling awful and laying down and unable to move, while Asuka is running naked into the ocean, because of course she is. Unfortunately, the next day Homare is still hungover when the boar alarm rings, meaning their trap got the boar. So now Asuka, Mutsu, and Shion must go into the wilderness with a bow and arrow and kill a boar. How do you think that's gonna go? Well, poorly at first. As it turns out, the bow hit Asuka's boob. Yeah, which is the reason actual archers wear breastplates. So that doesn't happen. Of course, then they suggest Mutsu does it because she's less well endowed, much to her chagrin. But instead, Shion just gives her a hand, quite literally, by holding her back her boob so they don't get hit by the bow, which is interesting. Anyway, Homare comes in and saves them in the last minute, so they did some good in this fight. And then they have meat, boar meat. And, yeah, they're really going all at it with their meat selection right here. Though Homare says she took a front leg and Asuka took a back leg, so clearly Asuka is the pig in this situation. No, you both are. But they also make a nice little table, which I like. They use the A-frame to set it up, and it just makes everything a lot classier and neater for them. Anyway, then they need to essentially drain and smoke the meat, and the only place they can hang it is on their own hammock, so they all basically have to sleep together for that night. Anyway, then Shion makes baskets, which, good on you, Shion. That's actually useful and helpful here. And as Homare says, they're incredibly well made. So, yay! Anyway, decided to use these baskets so they can explore the island fully. Apparently, last time when they went to the springs, they only went halfway. If they'd gone all the way, they would have probably found the other survivors. And, been rescued. The boat would have exploded and whatnot, but still, better than where they are now. Anyway, once they get to the other side of the island, they find two things interesting. One, there's another small island just a distance away that they might be able to get to at some point. I mean, that might be where Home's father is, but I'm not sure right now. And suitcases! From all this, they're able to ascertain that someone else, who they're calling Mr. X, showed up on the island, found the other two survivors, and rescued them. In other words, they've been left behind. Which is honestly really traumatizing for all of them, and Homare blames herself almost completely for this. So she decides they need to split up. Homare will stay on this side of the island where there's a blind spot, and the rest of them will go on the other side of the island. That way, if a boat comes on either side, they'll be seen and they can be rescued. They're, of course, all against that plan, but, Homare is determined to keep them alive no matter what. So they separate, and they're all really mad at her before they realize what she's trying to do, and so Asuka runs over with some meat for her to eat that night, which is good, because like I said earlier, she burned the snake. And then she realizes exactly what they can do when they essentially put a giant SOS on the side of the beach, as well as a scarecrow that she puts in the water, like is a big beacon saying, "Hey, there's people here," with a note in the pocket saying, "Hey, we're 4 girls. These are our names. We're on the other side of the island. Don't leave without us again." From there, they decide to go deep sea fishing. They use cocoons as thread for the hook, and for the hook, they cut up shells, and Homare manages to put together an eyeglass piece so she can see better underwater. And so they all get on the raft and they go deep into the water, which might not have been the best idea, given the fact that there are sharks in the water. Big tiger sharks, which, if I remember correctly, are one of the most violent forms of sharks. And so they all have to get on the raft as quickly as possible because, as she says, if you fall in, you're shark food, which is concerning. And this is honestly something they probably should have realized is an issue, because when they first swam to the island, there was a tiger shark chasing them. Should they just think that was the only shark in this water? Anyway, it starts, but one of them, there's 3 of them, starts biting up on the boat, and Homare kicks it. She kicks a freaking shark in the nose. I know, the nose is the shark's weak point where all the senses are, and if you hit it, the shark gets screwed up and run away, but that was still just badass. And then Asuka, she helps in her own way. She has to poop, and that's what saves them all. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. This is one of the even in this series, this is the one of the weirdest scenes ever. Essentially, they used her poop, put it in a bottle, and they throw it away, so the sharks will chase after the bottle. Yeah. Moving on. Moving on. They build a nice little roof for their table, which makes it easier to work and eat, and it just increases the fanciness of their whole setup a little bit, and allows Shion to continue making the sea glass bracelets for everybody, which that's really nice of her. Again, the baskets, sea glass bracelets, these are all just really great things she's doing that's making life a little better for all of them. Anyway, then they find out a typhoon is coming, which is unfortunate. Though honestly, I was a little excited for this because I've played survival games like this anime, manga, whatever before, and typhoons were you couldn't go out that day 'cause I was living in a cave. But afterwards, you always found great stuff on the beach, and it was really fun collecting it all. Anyway, they need a place to weather the storm, and they decided to go back to the absolutely destroyed house they saw before and bunker down in the old well. Or, as Shion calls it, their villa. Their little villa in the mountains. Which was probably a good idea, because when they get back to the beach to get their stuff, everything's gone. Their entire campsite's already been wiped out. Kind of wondering if they should have set up their camp a little more inland. Anyway, they manage to weather the storm and get out, and then Homare is immediately crushed by a giant tree that falls over. And they assume she's dead, but it turns out the tree landed on the well, and she's just in the well, under that giant tree. Though it's too much for them to move, so they have to use some complicated physics to break her out, which I'm not even going to begin to try and understand right now. It's not my area of expertise. Thankfully, it's Mutsu's, and she's able to put up some good calculations. So she's, very stressed in this situation because she thinks she's the only one who can do it. She's the only one that can save her. And, Homare must be so scared and terrified. But then we flash over, and Shion and Homare are having a conversation and laughing about how Homare's father peed all over their tent to keep away wild animals. Which is just a him thing to do, honestly. But the plan works, and they get her out. And, it's just a really great moment where they work together and they do something for themselves where without her to save her. I like that. I mean, the wild boar hunt was, partly them doing that, but in the end, it was Homare who came to the rescue and saved them all instead of the other way around. So this was nice. Then they're walking back, and they begin to calculate the weight of Asuka's boobs for reasons. So yeah, the typhoon basically destroyed everything, but they did find them a large plastic sheet that's very useful, which they can use to make a nice tent. Like I said, in the game I played, typhoons wash up all sorts of fun stuff onto the beach. Oh yeah, then Shion manages to... I can't even really describe this too well. She tried to make a rope swing and somehow got into BDSM. That's something else right there. Anyway, she's completely stuck and unable to get free. And she has to pee. So she does, while she's tied up like this, which... Okay! Why the hell not? That was just a really weird scene even for this series. I said that a few times now, haven't I? So next up is duck hunting, with Homare and Asuka going underwater using floaters and homemade underwater stilts to get close to the ducks without them being seen. Unfortunately, Asuka loses hers and begins to drown, so Homare has to use a little recycled breathing to save her. Because, of course, a series with 4 girls on an island has to have a kissing scene between them. At least, actually, the second one. She gets Mutsu back in the first one to give her some hydration. Anyway, they kill the duck and use its feathers to make more accurate arrows, which is very helpful for her. Oh, then Mutsu starts choking, which is a very unpleasant experience. It happened to me once, and very bad. I tried getting it down with some milk I was drinking and ended up vomiting up the milk. Super unpleasant day. Super unpleasant. But they managed to save her, and all seems well. Until not 5 minutes later, she gets bitten 3 times by a poisonous centipede. And I actually think it's the same centipede that was used to torture Kaneki and Tokyo Ghoul. So that's unpleasant. Then Homare orders her to shave, yeah, so they can sterilize the area. And what follows is the three of them sucking out the poison? Yeah. So that's an interesting scene. I honestly can't really put into words, but you're seeing it. So yeah, I'm moving on now. Next up, we get a scene of Shion and Homare going fishing together, and I love Shion's impersonation of Homare, which Homare does not love by any means whatsoever. But Shion managed to catch a large fish, so another good chapter for her, I'd say. Anyway, then as they're staring out at the ocean, they start to wonder, hey, how long have we been on this island for? And Mutsuda's like, oh, it's been exactly 1 month. And they're all like, oh, cheers, celebrations. It's our anniversary. But Asuka not having it because she's freaking pissed, and I get it. And I've been in situations like this where I've been trapped for long, long, long periods of time. And at some point, you just gotta start screaming like, "Get me out of here!" You know, you've dealt with it for so long, but at a certain point, you're like, "I need this to stop now." And so Asuka suggests, "What if we build a raft?" And Omri shoots down that idea instantly for very good reason. I mean, there's sharks. There's no real good source of food on the raft. In which direction are they going? How long are they plan on being there? What if they had another typhoon? What if they hit some strong waves? They'll die for sure. And Homari can't risk the rest of their lives, so instead, she decides to secretly start building a raft for herself. I'll build the raft in secret, and I'm going to leave this island. So her plan is essentially leave without anyone. Hopefully they survive while she's gone, and hopefully she can find someone to save the rest of them. Though to do that, she needs to start preparing them for life without them. Zamutsu is now building a garden where she grows hamadokon, because that works, and she's just acts like such an old lady. It's hilarious. Oh yeah, and then everybody gets diarrhea. Bad, 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 bad. As it turns out, Asuka has been going further and further away from the source of the water to get the water, which means that it's more likely to be filled with bacteria and contaminants. And now they're all really, really sick, and yeah. Though Asuka didn't drink any of the water she brought for the other people, so that's why she didn't get sick, which, yeah, I feel like the entire point of this chapter was to tell you, get the water close to the source. Very, very important. So then our final chapter ends with Mutsu and Tomare going for a walk together, and Mutsu asks if, when they finally get home, if she can go over to Homare's house, and to Homare this isn't a big deal. Like, she's probably thinking, oh, she probably thinks I have, like, stuffed deer heads all over the walls and torture weapons and whatnot. But that's not really what's going on here. Mutsu considers Homare to be her good friend, and I kind of doubt she's ever, gone over to her friend's house before, so that's what she wants, to, continue being friends with her when they get back, when they leave the island. And based on what's being seen, it looks like she's going to catch a really big fish and bring back enough for all of them to eat well. And that's how it ends, at least so far. Very weird schedule with what I've seen for the chapters being released online. The last one was released like 3 days ago, 4 days ago, probably by the time I get this video up. And the one before that was released like a month ago, but the one before that was released a week before that, so no idea whatsoever what's going on with that, but I'll be sure to keep you guys updated. If there's a big change or something really interesting, I'll make a quick video explaining it, saying, oh, this happened, oh, that happened. Or if the series does actually come to an end, I'll do another video on that. So yeah, pretty good manga. I enjoyed reading it. It definitely feels like this series is pitched as being like super cheap and easy to make. I mean, they got 5 voice actors total, and they didn't bother including the other 2. They didn't show the plane crash at all, or the waves when she was on there, so it definitely feels like this was kind of cheap to make for them, and for that reason, I could definitely see them arguing the second season wouldn't be too cheap and would make enough money to be profitable. Just my thoughts. If we do get a second season, though, it's definitely going to start with the other 2 survivors. I definitely feel like that's the best place for them to start, bringing the new voice actors for them, and say, okay, this is what else happened on the island that we didn't say. hopefully by the time the second season anime comes around, we'll actually have some answers on what happened with them and Homari's papa. I mean, I'm kind of curious. I mean, he's super duper incredibly unlucky. So things are going to be unpleasant for them. But at the same time, he's a freaking survival expert who knows more than Homari does and is stronger than she is. So yeah, they aren't going to be wanting for food or water or anything, though it might not be the most pleasant tasting food. But yeah, let me thought in the comment section down below. What do you think this whole breakdown? Uh, do you think we're gonna get a second season? Like I said, I definitely think there's enough material for it. But let me know what you think. Be sure to like, subscribe. Till next time.
Peace.